Hello, everyone, and welcome to the With Chinese Characteristics podcast. I'm Natalie.
I'm Cherry.
Together, we talk about topics with Chinese characteristics. Jerry, what are we doing today?
We're doing another episode of the Water Margins Book Club.
Yay! Yay! Yeah,
I can tell now he's very excited about
That's
it.
right, Cherry. We're talking about the Water Margin Book Club. So this week, Cherry, we have more Sagacious Lu adventures. Okay?
Can't have enough of those.
No, we can never have too many Sagacious Lu adventures. So when we had left Sagacious Lu last week, he had stopped a group of bandits from performing a forced marriage,
Yeah?
realized he knew their leader, hung out with them for a while, and then stole all their stuff and rolled down a mountain to safety.
Yeah?
So now he's on the road again. Remember, his goal is to get to Kaifeng City, where our story started, the eastern capital, the capital of the Northern Song Dynasty, to reach the great Xiangguo Monastery.
Yeah?
Is that a good pronunciation, Jerry?
Passable? Very good. That's excellent.
Wow, thank you. So he's traveling, and on the way, he finds himself hungry with no food.
When is he not?
He's always hungry.
Hungry.
Jerry, you know, he's hungry for booze.
He needs a lot of sustenance.
He's a big guy. He's just a massive. I forget how many pounds they say he was in the when we meet him, or how many hands across his chest is. But he's just like
He's a big dude.
a barrel of a man. Fortunately, though, he runs into a monastery. It's a monastery, a Buddhist monastery. He's a traveling monk. He thinks he can find some food there.
Yeah.
It's called the Wagwan Monastery.
Yeah.
Quickly, though,
But it's very run down.
it's a rundown. It's all full of cobwebs and birds' nests and stuff. And
Droppings
droppings, yes.
of the swallows.
Yes. And
It's
he
very
can't.
Chinese springtime
Yeah.
scenery.
And although what we find out later is it doesn't seem like this place has been abandoned like this for that long. So I don't know. These swallows must have really been making a lot of poop.
Well, you
to get
know,
their
go on
droppings
and look
everywhere.
at the trees. Sorry, not the trees. The cars in California. You know,
That's true.
any time of the year.
And this is pre-Mao, so there's more
Yeah, lots of swallows.
Yeah.
Still, yeah.
Well, those are sparrows, but close
Okay,
enough.
lots of sparrows and birds of all kinds.
Yeah. He puts his pack down in the kitchen next to the kitchen god.
Next to the kitchen god.
I know this isn't a real important plot point of the story, but I thought it was interesting because I feel like kitchen gods or kitchen idols are something that's everywhere in any story pre Republic of China.
Yeah.
And it's something that seemingly
Nowhere.
is nowhere in modern Chinese culture.
No.
When a lot of other stuff from this time period still is. So why don't you talk about what a kitchen god is, Cherry?
Yeah. Well, the kitchen god, the kitchen deity, also known as the stove god, or in Chinese, 灶神, 灶王爷, and such, is one of the most important Chinese domestic gods that protect, I guess, the people,
Or the home, probably.
the home, the domestic life. And some might say this god is the most important. So it depends on where you are in China and what time periods we're talking about. In general, there might be 5 or 6 domestic gods that a 老百姓's household
That guard
would
the home.
worship. Yeah.
Okay.
One of them, the kitchen god or the stove god, in charge of the food, right?
Okay.
And then the other ones are the door god, the well god for water supplies, the toilet god.
These are important, you know?
These are important.
These are vectors of disease, you know?
Exactly. So that's 4 gods already.
Okay.
The 5th and the 6th sometimes gets combined into this god called 中流 god, which is a combination of the land god and the house god. But the thing is, the house is built on the land, so sometimes they get merged into one. They're the same god. And all of them are very important, and they all report back to the Jade Emperor. Specifically, the stove god, the kitchen god, reports back to the Jade Emperor on the 23rd day of the 12th lunar month of the year, just before Lunar New Year.
Almost like Santa Claus, you know, letting the Jade Emperor know if,
You've been good.
Yeah, you've been
exactly.
good if you
and I thought,
should be blessed.
I know. And I thought it would, the kitchen god just reports whether you have wasted food or not. But no. It reports on everything. Okay? It returns to heaven and report the activities of the entire household in the past year. Whether you've done good, whether you have been greedy, yada, yada. And, the interesting thing is this imaginary relationship between the kitchen god and the people is, from what I've read, very much like the relationship between like a local government official. Well, the parenting like
father and mother official.
Yes, mother and father
official. Yeah.
And because you can provide tributes to and sacrifices,
taxes
to to the kitchen god. And a lot of times the custom is that you will provide the kitchen god with like marinated like sugar snacks, and then it would just be sweet, and so that the mouth of the kitchen god will be sticky and sweet. And then they will say good things about you. So sometimes the kitchen god, there are two of them. When you see like posters in front of the stove, there might be a man and a woman, and there's supposed to be a couple who are both the kitchen god. Sometimes there's just one man, like a grandpa kind of or middle-aged man. So based on the reports of the kitchen god to the Jade Emperor, the Jade Emperor might either reward or punish a family based on their performances. But there's like wiggle rooms of what the kitchen god will say about you. So
they can lie for you.
Yeah, they might just grease some facts. Oh, okay. They might just. So
you want them on your side.
Yeah, or you want them on your side. Yeah, and it was worshipped as early as the Shang Dynasty, which was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Natalie's right that this kitchen god comes up a lot in traditional classical Chinese literature. Yeah.
And it's not really described normally. It's just mentioned. Like everybody, of course, knows what the kitchen god is.
Yes. And then the kitchen god will always, it's a very practical, every household would have a stove.
Yeah.
That's where the food comes from. And you would almost always you will have a picture of the kitchen god there and some tributes for it too.
Probably in the olden days, maybe a little statue.
Exactly. But now it's all gone, right? Not in my household, we didn't have it. Yeah. People I know, obviously I was living in a city, not the countryside, but still, I don't think it's around a lot anymore. And the tradition was that in every household back in the days, you would have the kitchen god in the home, and every village or town, you will have a little temple for the land god. And that's sort of the definite gods you have to worship for good fortune.
Got to keep happy.
Yeah.
So I think heard in, things in Hong Kong, like in the 50s and 60s, it still comes up. But I don't know if you're...
It's because they weren't under Mao's wonderful leadership.
I know.
They didn't break the 4 oath.
Yeah. So if you're a member of the Chinese diaspora or in a culturally Chinese area, and you do still, or your parents have a kitchen god, I'd be interested to hear, because I'm curious if what areas of still kind of do that.
Yeah.
And I know, obviously, I doubt there's very many people at all in the modern day who actively, truly believe that the kitchen god is going to report to the Jade Emperor. But much like I don't think anybody in America believes that Santa Claus is literally making a list.
What?
Whether you've been naughty and nice. It's just kind of
not?
It's just kind of a cultural thing,
Yeah. And I one more thing I wanted to add, little tidbits. I wrote that the kitchen deity, the kitchen god, is the most important of the domestic gods. Because after all, there is a Chinese saying that goes like this: 民以食为天, which is food is the first necessity of the people.
It's true.
In Lu Da's case, in Lu Zhishen's case,
he needs the food right now.
Food is always his first necessity. Food and wine, right? Yeah.
Well, maybe in a way, Cherry, he's putting his pack down with all of his stolen gold and silver in it in front of the kitchen god. Maybe in a way,
unconsciously,
he's making an offering.
Yeah, subconsciously, yeah. So that's the kitchen god.
And I'm sure the kitchen god's going to come up more in this story here and there. But so anyway, he eventually finds some old monks. The only monks there, some real old monks who...
Or skinny.
Yeah, and they, he was yelling in the monastery and they just kept quiet. Mm-hmm. So these monks spin a sad story. They say, "It's true that our monastery was once prosperous. Wandering monks came from all over. Then one of them brought a Taoist priest with them and they took control." Those Taoists, Cherry. This is a Buddhist monastery, by the way. As far as I can tell, it's a Buddhist monastery. "They ruined everything. There's nothing those two won't do. They drove all our monks away. Only we, who are too old to move, remained. That's why we have nothing to eat. Liars, says Lu Da. What do a single monk and a single priest amount to? Couldn't you have lodged a complaint with the government? Reverend, you don't understand. We're a long way from any government office. Mountains are high.
The mountains are high, the emperor's far away.
Mm-hmm. Besides, even soldiers couldn't stop them. They're very fierce. Murder and arson mean nothing to them. They're living in a building behind the abbot's hall. What are their names? The monk is called Cui. The monk is called Cui. His Buddhist title is accomplished. His nickname is Cast Iron Buddha, which is a pretty cool name. The Taoist priest is named Cho. His father called him second son. His nickname is Flying Messenger from Hell.
Is he literally the second son?
I mean, probably.
Okay.
You know, these second sons, Cherry. Apologies to all the second sons out there, but, you know. His nickname is Flying Messenger from Hell. Neither of them act like men who've renounced the material world. They're just robbers in the greenwood. They only use their priesthood as a cloak. So, these are some bad dudes, right? Mm-hmm. Unlike Sagacious Lu, they have not renounced
the material world.
Material world. And we have talked about this like in some of the regular podcast episodes, like the Judge D one, but the Chinese justice system, you know, it's very much centered around big walled cities and like county seats.
Yeah.
And, you know, the governor or the magistrate is like the only official that does anything with justice, essentially, for, you know, it could be hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah.
So once you get a certain distance away, I mean, they're not going to like pay to send sheriffs and stuff out there to grab people. And they just, you know, unless something really crazy happens, like a giant peasant rebellion, they just let this stuff happen for the most part.
Yeah.
So while
I mean, not to like justify, you know, or gloss over the reality of the ancient Chinese just you know, it's just the system. But I mean, isn't it? I mean, it might happen today as well. Someone who is, you know, wanted in New York could be in Los Angeles, and you know, if it's not that big of a crime.
Oh no, I know.
The New York NYPD is not going to send someone out here to get them unless they show themselves.
Oh yeah, but there, you know, I mean, we still have like, I mean, in modern day, most nations have local police and stuff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there is not really good. I mean, there are officials and bands, and there's groups of soldiers and stuff around, but it's all very patchwork, right? In this time period, right? Yeah. So, as we saw, Sagacious Lu, he killed somebody in town.
Yeah.
Huge deal, right?
Huge deal, yeah. But once he's shaved his head, no longer a huge deal.
Yeah, and also if a monastery gets taken over in the middle of nowhere, no one's going to do anything. There's no money in it.
No.
So Sagacious is listening to the backstory. He gets distracted by the smell of food, and he realizes these monks have been holding out on him, these old monks. There is a pot of millet cooking in the back. So if you know, millet's another kind of grain.
Yeah.
And the connotation is that it's the cheap stuff. It's not as nutritious or as good as rice.
No.
Or wheat.
Yeah.
Interestingly, in the film Seven Samurai, where the Japanese village, they're trying to get the samurai to fight for them. They feed the samurai rice, but they just eat millet, which is the cheap stuff. So the monks, though, they hide all the bowls. They hide all the bowls and the spoons and the chopsticks.
They hurriedly take away the bowls.
They hide it all. They take it. They grab it all. And
so they're like, this big dude is gonna eat. He's gonna eat
the whole pot of millet. And so Lu Da, so hungry, he just takes the pot of millet, dumps the millet all over a table.
Yeah.
And just eats it. Just eats it off a table like an animal.
Yeah, with his hands.
Yeah. So then the monks try and stop him. He kicks them all away and stuff. So then, though, a new person enters the scene. The Taoist priest. What are you going to talk about?
I think Lu Da stopped eating before someone came outside. They said, the monks said, we haven't eaten in 3 days.
Yeah.
This is all we have. And Lu Da consumed no more than 6 or 7 mouthfuls. But on hearing this, he stopped. And this is the time I want to bring up. One of our listeners has kindly brought up or reminded us that there's another commented version of The Water Margins out there, which is by Jing Shentan, this Chinese writer. Mm-hmm. Later in history, obviously, after this book was written.
But still, it's like Qing Dynasty.
Yeah.
So like 200 years ago, 300 years ago.
So this guy really loves loves water margins more than us, okay? You think we're dedicating 200 episodes to this book? Jing Shenhan was like just completely all over the book. So he wrote, there's this version of his like commentary. It's almost like literature criticism. But there's not a lot of criticism because he just loves the book. But you can find a version of him with the text, like making notes, almost like sometimes every other sentence. So it's a lot. So, but I read it for this chapter because I was curious to see what he says. And there's some interesting stuff in there. But at this point, after this paragraph, after Lu Zhishen has stopped eating, you know what he said?
What?
He commented, "It's not actually that Lu Zhishen felt bad for the monks. It's just that Lu Zhishen doesn't like porridge that much." So I thought that's,
I mean, how would he know that?
Oh, come on. He's an expert of the water margins, Natalie.
I mean, look. Sagacious Lu probably doesn't like porridge that much.
It's millet porridge. No, what are you talking about?
I choose to think it's because
he's kind and he felt bad.
Has a good heart.
Okay.
Out of most of the other people we'll meet.
I'm just bringing up a diverse opinion here, okay?
Yeah. Lu Zhishen.
I think I believe in Jing Shenhan. I think Lu Zhishen just didn't like the porridge that much.
I think he has a good heart.
Okay.
And he stops eating the porridge when the monks start like crying that he's eating their millet. Anyway.
Continue, please.
The Taoist priest arrives. The flying messenger from hell.
Yeah.
And the monks.
Sick name.
Yeah, I know, right? And the monks are like, that's the guy. That's the guy who took over the monastery. And Sagacious quietly follows him. I guess he can sneak too. It's one of his many skills. So he finds the Buddhist monk too. And the two of them are sitting together with a young woman. So this is the description of the Buddhist monk. A fat monk sat in the middle chair. His brows were like streaks of smeared paint. His face was black as ink. He bulged with muscles. Beneath his chest, a swarthy belly protruded. So it sounds almost kind of like Lu Zhishen right here. Sounds like
it's like a mirroring.
Double. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the three of them, this Buddhist monk, the Taoist monk, and this lady, sounds like the start of a joke. Three of them walk into a bar.
Yeah.
But then Sagacious Lu jumps out and accuses them of essentially destroying the monastery.
Yes.
The two monks claim that the monastery was ruined by mismanagement, and they're there to fix it. Right?
Yeah.
No, we're just here to fix it.
Yes.
The woman is the daughter of somebody in the village. And interestingly, this woman's, they also say she's married, but I think it's funny in patriarchal Chinese society, the first thing they mention is that she's someone's daughter, right? Because that's higher up in the
chain. Yeah.
In the chain, But, and she just happens to be joining them for a meal. But
there's a song. The priest was bawling the song.
What's the song that the monk was
singing? You want
singing?
me to read the song? Okay, the song says, "In the east are you, in the west am I. For you, no husband, no wife for me. Without any wife, I can still get by. Without a man, how lonely you must be." I'm rolling my eyes, but
Is that because he's sleeping around, probably?
Well, no, this is almost like a love song. This is almost like, you should marry me. Because I'm like, this is a loving situation he's trying to portray.
Long distance relationship?
Sure. No, the priest was singing it to the woman with him.
But I thought it was, she's saying, you're in the east, I'm in the west. Sounds like kind of like a long distance relationship.
Sure. That.
Yeah.
It's a relative position.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that long. Well, there's a point to this, but we'll get to it later.
Oh, what's the point?
I'm assuming that our listeners have read the chapter, so I'm not like doing any spoiler alert. But this woman's captured. Okay.
No, we know, yeah.
Yeah. So and this is also, I thought of this and I read Jing Shenhan. I'll give him credit.
Yeah.
As a man, I think, in the Qing Dynasty.
Yeah.
He saw through it. He's like, this is a captured woman. But this love song is trying to paint over the fact that she's captured. They're saying that this is a loving situation to the listeners, to the outsiders, trying to cover up the fact that this is a,
captured
crime.
woman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is a common strategy of not just Chinese men, I guess, men everywhere.
Well, it's also even true to this day
in
China, where people steal wives from other towns and stuff, or steal women from other towns.
Yes.
And then marry them.
And they're like, it's for your own good. You need a husband. Yeah. I'm doing you a favor. Or if you attack a woman on the street, you're like, no, she's my girlfriend.
Yeah.
It's like, no, she's not your...
Yeah.
Or if they broke up, or even if she's your girlfriend.
It's my property.
Yeah, exactly. So this is what the song is saying.
But Sagacious Lu,
he's
a feminist, Cherry. So he's
evidently,
concerned. He does ask. He does ask. He's like, what's this lady doing
He
here?
does
right?
ask, yeah.
You know? But the lady doesn't get to say anything. She's
No,
not
of
a
course
character.
not.
But
Per usual.
so anyway, they say, yeah, we're just here to fix the monastery. This lady's just joining us for lunch. Sagacious Lu's like, oh, okay, seems legit. So these two like giant, like muscly, suspicious looking guys.
Yeah.
So he goes back to the old monks and he's like, hey, they said that, that they're just here to fix it. And you guys
ruined the
monastery with like womanizing and drinking. And the monks are like, are you stupid? Like they just said that because you had a sword and they didn't.
Yeah.
So, go back again and you see what happened.
You had a staff. You had a...
Yeah. He was armed.
Yeah, okay. And he's him. He looks like Lu Zhishen.
He looks like a tough dude.
Yeah.
So he goes back and forth. And the two bandits / monks do, in fact, try to kill him.
Yeah.
Sagacious almost beats one, but together they overpower him. And it's implied...
Because he's hungry.
It's implied that he's not at his full strength.
No, he's hungry.
He said no food and no booze.
Yeah.
Well, he had a little bit of food. He had a little bit of millet.
The video game, if it's a video game, the little bar above
0.
Lu Zhishen's head, 0.
Yeah. If he's 1/10 drunk, he can only use 1/10 of his strength.
Exactly.
So he's at like 1%.
Yeah.
Of his strength. So anyway, he has to run away. 36 stratagem. Hit the
Number
brakes.
1, first strategy, run away.
Yeah, first strategy, run away. He realizes, though, he left his bag behind with all of his money.
In front of the kitchen god.
In front of the kitchen god. But he's like, well, what can I do, So he walks he walks like a mile away from the monastery when a bandit pops out of the woods, looks him over, and then goes back in the woods.
Yeah.
This is from the book. That bird is a robber, or I miss my guess, and he's waiting for business, thought Lu. When he saw I was a monk, he knew there was no profit in me, so he spat and went away. It was just his bad luck that he's run into me. I've a belly full of wrath and no place to get rid of it. It's a good line. I'll strip the lout of his clothes and sell them for wine money. So they start yelling insults at each other, and they recognize each other's voice. But because they're tough dudes, they're like, we still got to fight it out.
We got to fight it out.
We got to get a sense of each other.
Yeah.
So they fight a few dozen rounds, which is seemingly how every battle or fight is.
Yeah, it's
broken
round
up
based.
Yeah, it's round based,
It's all very tidy.
You swing and then the other person parries and then, the other person swings.
Yeah. It's obviously that's not how it goes in reality.
No.
But this is not a book of reality.
No, it's not.
And I think in traditional, the rounds really, in a way, just emphasizes like how long they have been fighting. So if if the book says they've been fighting for 8 rounds, they've been fighting for a while, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I get the impression it's sort of meant to describe like they come at each other, they swing, and then maybe they step back for a second and they see what's going on and then they fight again.
Yeah. If we watch a Water Margins TV show, we can see if that's how they portray it.
We're going to have to... We got to get a little bit into the book, but at a certain point, we got to watch some of the TV shows.
We got it, yeah.
They're both pretty impressed by each other. And
of course, they're both tough dudes.
They're both tough dudes.
They're both on the network, I'm assuming.
They're both men of valor. And it turns out the bandit is no other than 9 Dragon Shujin.
Wow.
So the two catch up.
Yeah.
This is 9 Dragon Shujin's backstory.
Yeah. But noted, 9 Dragon Shujin is coming back into the story.
Yeah.
So like he's
from
one
chapter
of the
3.
Yeah. So this is a reoccurrence of a character. So he's an important character.
And he's a star of destiny.
Yeah.
So he's a reincarnated spirit. So the day after I left you at the tavern, I heard you had killed Butcher Zhang and run away.
Yeah.
So he doesn't call him the Lord of the West.
No.
He was there, so he just has the regular story. The police discovered I had helped you in sending off old Jin and his daughter, the singer. So I decided I'd better leave Weizhou too. I went to Yanzhou looking for my teacher Wang Jin, but I couldn't find him. I returned to the northern capital and lived there a while, but my money ran out. So I came here to this place to pick up some more, aka rob people on the road.
Yeah.
I never
casual looting and robbing.
Yeah, casual robbing. He used to be a little rich boy manner.
But he threw it all away for other tough dudes.
Yeah.
That's how much of a brother he is.
That's true. I never thought we'd meet here. What made you become a monk, brother? Lu told his whole story from the beginning, this is about the 7th person he's given his entire I became a monk.
Well, we didn't have to read it again in this book, in this chapter though. That's all the author said.
Yeah. He's just, So Shujin shares his food and then recommends they go back and murder those 2 treacherous monks back at the monastery. So they decide to go for it. Okay? Because those two monks,
The Taoist priest and
the Taoist priest and the Buddhist monk.
Yes.
So those two guys, right? They are dudes who are tough, but they're not tough dudes, Cherry.
No, not capital T, capital D.
No, they're not men of valor.
No.
As how the book would describe it. Because
They only briefly had the advantage because Lu Zhishen was hungry as crap.
And they steal. They're stealing women.
Yeah.
They're bullying.
Yeah.
They're doing all this stuff.
Yeah. By all indication, they're not
And also
tough dudes.
they're greedy because they could have just shared some food
They could.
with Lu Zhishen, and
no.
Lu Zhishen would have carried on his journey.
Yeah, they wouldn't.
No. So these are not men of valor.
No.
So they do not deserve the considerations of the tough dude network.
Meaning just being treated like a human.
Where you fight each other and then you shake it out afterwards.
Yeah.
You hug it out.
Yeah.
At the end.
No, these two men are destined to have the same ending as the Lord of the West.
Lord of the West. Yes, exactly. So Sagacious Lu goes back and he first fights the Buddhist monk, the big fat monk. This is from the book. He knew that he now had Shijin to back him up, and this gave him more courage. What's more, he had eaten heartily and was in high spirits.
Oh, Shijin shared him food.
Yeah, food, yeah. He fought the meter is rising, the Sagacious Lu power meter. He fought the fat monk 8 or 9 rounds. So now the Taoist priest comes to help. But Shijin, who's been waiting, runs out of the forest to intercept him. They fight a bit more, and Sagacious Lu knocks the fat monk off a bridge. The priest saw the monk fall and lost heart. He fainted with his weapon and ran. So this is, again, real tough dudes don't run away from their bros, Sherry.
No, they would be loyal.
Yeah.
If they had fought to their death, Lu Zhishen might have gone, you're loyal. I'm going to let you go.
Yeah, all right. Well, you guys run
Or
off.
Shijin would, right?
Yeah.
Because he has done that before with the 3 brothers.
Yep. Where do you think you're going? Exclaimed Shijin. He caught up and plunged his halberd into the priest's back. The man fell to one side. Shijin placed a foot on him and stabbed him again and again. Lu sped down from the bridge. With a single blow of his staff, he broke to his back. Poor ruffians. Their lives vanished like a dream.
Yeah.
So these guys are not...
That's the ending.
They're
for
not
them.
men of valor. No. So they throw the bodies down a ravine. They go get Lu's stuff back. And then they find everyone in the monastery has killed themselves. The old men have killed themselves. The woman, I guess, saw her chance, threw herself in a well. Everybody's dead.
Yeah. The woman, I think it's almost like a lesson for not a lesson, like a dog whistle sort of women's virtual situation. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it.
Well, I think it's probably just that she probably thought she was just going to get handed over to a new set of bandits.
Yeah.
And she's just like, I'm done.
Yes. But when we're talking about, I think maybe in the first episode of the book club is how in the Song Dynasty, when the Qing Dynasty took over or conquered the Song Dynasty, there's all these women, Song Dynasty women, Han women.
If the city's being taken, you're just supposed to kill yourself.
Yes.
Rather than being
to
married
protect
off.
your virtue.
Yeah.
Rather than be married off. Maybe you even want to be married off. I don't know.
Yeah.
But this woman had a virtuous ending, Natalie.
Yeah.
That's what the lesson is.
Well, I don't know. The monks killed themselves too, so I don't know if they had a
Well,
virtuous...
but they have a different set of standards.
No, I believe that though.
I mean, monks have nowhere to go, Natalie. This is their monastery.
Yeah.
The woman can go back to the village, but no.
Well, regardless, there's no monastery now because they burned it down.
No.
I think they're just like, okay, we got some bad memories here.
Yeah.
So they burn the whole monastery down, and they sit there.
Or maybe covering up the evidence that
That's
they
true
killed
as
2
well.
dudes, just,
Well, they threw the dudes down a ravine, but yeah, it is definitely the site of some carnage.
Yeah.
So then they're like, well,
That's that.
let's keep traveling.
Yeah. That's that for this monastery and all these lives.
Yeah, so they eat the bandits' food, they steal their stuff, and then they wander on together until they reach a tavern. They wander all night. Lu and Shijin went inside and drank. They had the waiter buy them some fresh meat and rice, and they cooked these themselves. While dining, they told each other of their experiences during their separate travels. So I actually had a question about this for Cherry, because I've seen this quite a few times where it's mentioned that you go to like a tavern or a wine house.
Yeah.
And then the waiter goes and just buys you food at the market, and then you cook it yourself.
Yeah.
So it's like...
essentially you're like renting a spot.
Okay, so you're like renting like kind of like a table with maybe with like a stove in it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, because this is countryside we're talking about.
Yeah.
And I think it's not that uncommon. They might not have everything in stock. They don't know what you want. They don't know how many customers they're going to get.
Yeah.
Because
in the I think that's a little bit different from, I mean, obviously Europe's a big place, but I think a lot of times taverns would just have, or an inn would just have a meal, right? They got something in the pot that's cooking, and you get a scoop of it.
That's what you get.
Yeah, if you want dinner.
Yeah. I mean,
this is China. It's cosmopolitan, Cherry.
Exactly. Well, I mean, one of my favorite TV shows, I guess, the Late Night Kitchen, the Japanese TV show. It's like the what do you call that? A Japanese, the places that salarymen go to.
Izakaya?
Izakaya. It's an izakaya. And the chef or the owner would be like, well, if you want to bring the ingredients, I'll cook it for you. That kind of a deal, It's casual. It's flexible.
Well, that's what, they're casual. Sagacious Lu and Shuji.
Yeah. Casual man of valor.
Yeah. So Sagacious Lu, he gives some of his money he stole from the other bandits in the previous chapter to Shujin, and then the two split up. Lu carries on to Kaifeng, the eastern capital, and Shujin goes back to his two buds on the mountain.
Yes.
Or actually three of them.
Three buds.
Three buds on the mountain from chapter 2, I guess, or chapter 3, that he originally left because he's like, I can't be a bandit. I'm a landowner. Well, now he's got nothing left.
No, he's got to be a bandit.
He's hanging out by the road robbing people.
Yeah.
So he's going home. So we leave Shujin again for the moment.
And then we will talk now of Sagacious Lu.
Yes, of Sagacious Lu. So he makes his way to the eastern capital. He finds the great Xiangguo Monastery. This is the description. A servant went in to announce him. Soon the reception monk came out. He was somewhat startled by Lu's fierce appearance, the iron staff in his hand, the sword at his waist. We're not calling it a knife anymore. We're just, the story just admitting it's a sword, and the pack upon his back. Lu announces himself and presents his introduction letter, but he doesn't know the ceremony for greeting the abbot. So the reception monk's got to be like, okay, you put your mat here, you do this with your robe.
Yeah, it's like, have you learned nothing from the Wutai Mountain? No, learn nothing.
Sagacious Lu's learned nothing. This is from the book. Lu didn't know where to put his stick of incense. The reception monk couldn't help laughing. He placed it in an incense burner. Sagacious kowtowed 3 times. So the abbot reads the letter and explains Lu's situation and claims he'll have great attainments later on. He's a spirit in heaven.
Yeah.
He sends Lu to rest and holds a little conference. So one thing interesting is the abbot in this letter from the Wutai Monastery specifies that he thinks Sagacious Lu should be giving a working monk position.
Yes.
Which I think is interesting because it's sort of, we didn't really talk about it in the original episode at Wutai Monastery, but it implies that he was not a working monk at Wutai Monastery.
Yes. And there's a difference between a working monk and a non-working monk.
So why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Okay. So even though monks are supposed, Buddhist monks are supposed to be, cleared of their 6 senses and no longer be distracted by the worldly affairs out there. However, though,
people still got to eat.
People still got to eat. The monastery, right? The Chinese Buddhist structure and the daily activities. It's a
corporation.
It's a corporation. There's an organizational structure.
Yeah.
There's an operating mechanism.
Yeah.
It's like clockwork.
There's budgets. There's inventories. There's personnel.
Exactly, and there are functions, and there are temple affairs, such as there had to be a reception monk that comes out and welcome Lu Zhishen. The abbot is not going to do it himself.
No.
So
everybody can't be praying and putting incense.
Yes. During the Song and Yuan dynasty, the structure was pretty complete. But by the time that when it got to the Ming and the Qing dynasties, the structure was much more standardized, institutionalized, and recorded. Okay. So today you can find all these all these texts and rules of how to run a temple.
Okay.
And, the connection between the temples and all that. So it's complicated. In general, you can say there are 2 types or classes of monks.
Okay.
The first type is qingzhong. The word qing could be translated to clear, to clean, to quiet,
pure,
to pure.
Okay.
So for the Qing people, for the Qing monks, everything follows the rules of the hall. You ignore the affairs and you just sit quietly with the incense burning. So that's what Lu Dao was supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's what Lu Zhishen was supposed to, because this is my assumption, because obviously the monastery is going to say one's a higher class, one's a lower class. Mm-hmm. But the working class are not going to be the ones really in charge, right? And Lu Zhishen was supposed to be one of the Qing people in the Wutai Mountain. because he was introduced by a very important figure.
And he was also introduced as like a soldier who's seen too much and he just wants to leave the material world behind.
Exactly. You can put him in charge of things, right?
No, so he just wants to sit and contemplate eternity.
Yes. But obviously that didn't work out for him.
No.
And the abbot is like, no, he needs a job.
Sagacious Lu needs to be kept busy.
Yeah, so that's the second type of monks we're talking about. And it's translated to the listening monks. The Chinese is the 听众. And obviously, based on the name, the listening monks, they have to hear the worldly affairs. They have to sometimes listen to commands. So they usually use the outside of the monk's hall versus to the Qing people who uses the inside of the monk's hall. They dispatch affairs. They manage the monastery, and down to details such as the garden, the vegetable garden, the well, the water management, which we'll get to in this chapter in a second. Yeah. So that's what Lu Da is supposed to be, a working monk.
And I find that, and in some ways it could be considered, a step down, right? From, as you said, what he was before, which was a clean monk, right? A pure monk.
Yeah.
And I find that interesting because that is similar to my understanding of how a lot of Christian monasteries worked. Because, again, the Bible has a lot of rules in it, right? And it's hard.
Tell me about it, yeah.
And it's hard, for somebody to live a life and interact with the world and follow all the rules, right?
Yes.
And so a lot of monasteries, they had that same separation. They had, the certain group of, I think they're called like choir monks, who, every hour or so you have to pray, right? Or do a chant. And obviously someone's got to, take the honey out of the beehive. Someone's, you know what I mean? Yes. Someone's got to make the mead. Someone's got to, do the fields or whatever, interact with people.
Yes.
And so in some monasteries, they paid people to do that. In other ones, they had what are called like lay monks who might not have the educational requirements to be like a full monk.
To be the spiritual monk.
No, but, they're still dedicated to God and, but anyway. So it seems like monasteries have the same problems everywhere.
Exactly. And I read an interesting paper. There's a Chinese paper. I'll attach it if you are interested in read Chinese or you want to Google translate it. But there is, the power dynamic can vary because obviously I know we're it's sort of a class system. But it's important to have working monks.
Yeah.
It's there are temple affairs and you have to assist the abbot. You have to serve the other monks. You have to maintain the order because there's a lot of monks living together. Yeah. And there are visitors to the temple. You got to collect the offerings.
Well, what I assume you're getting at is what I read also in Western monasteries looking at this is the working type monks can sort of take over the monastery.
They could, but it depends, right? It depends on how the spiritual leader, the abbot, keeps the finger on the pulse, I guess. So it could vary, but it's not necessarily a step down, but you are going to have to do a lot more work as a working monk. Which I'm assuming the abbot is like, Lu Zhishen's got to be distracted. He's got to have a job.
Yeah.
Being a hearing monk, being a spiritual monk did not work out for him.
Well, let's hear that the abbot has a little conference.
Sure.
He gathers everybody together reading the letter. And apparently the abbot's letter is fairly honest from Wu Tai. The abbot summoned both sections of his clergy. When they had all assembled in his hall, when he says both sections, I assume he means clear monks and listening monks.
Probably.
But it's not really 100% clear. But so my brother abbot on Mount Wu Tai really has no discretion. This monk he sent used to be an officer in a border garrison. He shaved off his hair only because he killed a man. Twice he caused riots in the monks' quarters of the Wu Tai monastery. He made no end of trouble. My brother abbot couldn't cope with him, so he shoved him off on me. Failing upwards, shall I reject him? My brother's plea is so insistent I can't well refuse, but if I keep him here, he's liable to play havoc with our rules and put us in a terrible state. So eventually they come
And this is the Xiangguo monastery. Yeah. This is like in the middle of civilization.
Yes.
Lu Da can't just burn it and then leave.
Also, if he
will be held responsible.
Also, if he gets drunk and starts smashing things, it's like a big scandal in the city, right?
Exactly,
you know? So it's not like it's on a mountain where they can kind of cover it up.
No.
Eventually, though, they come up with a plan. The monastery has a vegetable garden, more like a vegetable farm, right?
Yes. I'm sorry. I'm not laughing that the monastery has one.
Yeah.
I'm just laughing at this is the plan they came out for Lu Zhishen.
The Sagacious Lu.
Can anything be less fitting?
Yeah, than running a vegetable patch. So, but the local ruffians are stealing vegetables from the patch.
The stakes are just incredibly high here, Natalie.
They're taking the carrots. They're taking the cabbage.
Yeah.
Sometimes they let a pig.
At the countryside where Lu Da came from, they take women. So, what are these? These are just taking some, I don't know, carrots.
Also, when you hear about
Actually, I don't know if at this time China had carrots.
Yeah, I think they were a New World thing, actually.
Yeah, they are new. So maybe just some, I don't know, just some bok choy,
And wait till you hear about the ruffians' plan to deal with Lu Da. It's all very grade school, or Sagacious Lu.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
So anyway, these local ruffians are always bullying the people who work there, who are also monks. So again, Sagacious Lu is not at the bottom of the totem pole. They're not saying he has to pick the vegetables.
No.
He's got to manage the monks who work the vegetables, right?
I mean, I don't know if they said it in this text, but I'm not even 100% sure everyone who picks the vegetables are monks.
No, but
they could just hire local labor to do that.
They do mention at a certain point that they're lay brothers.
Oh, okay.
So I think some of them, they probably have some local labor too.
Okay.
But, the garden
we're not asking Lu Da to dig a hole.
No. The garden is supposed to deliver 10 loads of vegetables a day to the monastery. So it must be a decent size, right? Mm-hmm. This isn't like a little patch. It's fields.
Yeah. But they got to make the quota.
Lu seems like a tough guy, so he should be able to keep things in check. Also, it's far away from the monastery.
Yeah.
So, he can only cause so much trouble.
Yeah.
So Sagacious Lu is not happy though. He thinks he should get a big big position.
Job.
He's like, I should be like the deacon
or
like a supervisor in the monastery. However, the monks, they sit down and they explain the entire hierarchy of the monastery to him.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, this is a good job for prospects for advancement. And they're like, this is what they say. They say, if you keep the garden well for a year, brother, you'll be raised keeper of the pagoda. Big advancement. If you do that well for a year, you'll be made master of the bathhouse. Only still after another year's good work might you be appointed supervisor. So that's how it is, said Lu.
Yeah.
As long as there's a chance for advancement, I'll start work tomorrow. So he's like, oh, that could be pagoda.
It's like a lesson for like modern corporation.
Yeah, you got to give people
management
a chance.
Yeah.
He's like,
an upward trajectory.
I don't know.
Opportunity to advance.
I don't exactly know what keeper of the pagoda does.
Me neither.
That's better than the garden, but a post goes out at the garden. The monastery, this is like a thing they pound to like a tree or something. The monastery has appointed the monk Sagacious Lu overseer of these vegetable fields. Starting tomorrow, he shall be in charge. Those having no business here are strictly forbidden to enter. So apparently the local ruffians could read that, and they have a little meeting.
Lu Zhishen can't read.
No, he can't.
But the local ruffians are...
At least one of them can read, I guess.
Yeah, at least one of them.
Or one of the monks explains it to them.
Yes.
So they have a little meeting. They have a little ruffian council. They decide the first day we're going to humiliate this new monk by throwing him into like the manure pile, the trash pile, to show him who's boss.
Yeah.
They're not going to kill him. They're going to push him in, right?
Yeah.
Essentially. So Lu arrives. He meets the lay monks who work the fields. Then he saw coming towards him 20 or 30 scamps bearing a platter of pastries and ceremonial wine.
Yeah.
Which I guess they assume he can drink. I don't know. Maybe the Xiangguo Monastery is a little bit more lax on the drinking booze requirements. This is what the ruffians say. We neighbors have heard that you've been put in charge, Master Monk, they said, grinning broadly, and we've come to congratulate you. Not knowing it was a plot, Sagacious Lu walked forward until he reached the edge of the odor pit, the trash pit, the poop pit. The rascals advanced together, one of them intending to seize his left, another his right, and toss him in. You think they would have rethinked this plan?
After seeing Lu Zhishen? Yeah.
And this is the last sentence of the paragraph chapter. The result was this. A foot kicked out, and a fierce mountain tiger was startled. A fist struck out, and a dragon of the sea met a sorry plight. A peaceful garden was instantly changed into a minor battlefield. What came of the ruffian scheme to upset Sagacious? Read our next chapter, if you would know. Do you think these ruffians are going to
I can take a wild guess.
In bullying Sagacious Lu, who just killed 2 people and dumped them in a ditch on the way to the monastery?
Yeah, I don't think it's good news for them, but we will have to wait till the next episode and see.
Yeah. So I want to admit something, which is I'm probably not going to make a relationship diagram for the water margin.
No? We were all so looking forward to it.
I haven't done it yet. Maybe someday.
there is going to be a lot of characters.
I know. It's going to get very complicated. But we're going to, I think one of the difficulties of reading this book, especially if you read it in one sitting, is you get like 40 or 50 chapters in and then you're just like, who is that person again? I think I remember them. So we are going to talk about...
if they make a comeback, like Shijin did.
Nine Dragons Shijin from chapter 2 and 3, little rich boy.
Yeah.
Now he's a hardened bandit.
But it's okay. If we're not, just enjoy the book. No one's going to test you on it.
I'm going to test you, Cherry.
You're going to test me.
I'm going to test the reader.
Okay. Well, I don't think our readers can't talk, It's
I'll
not.
know.
You will know?
Yeah, I'll know.
Telepathically?
Yeah.
Well, this is a very easygoing podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Then, well, I enjoyed this chapter. It's a short one, and I think the significance of this chapter is that now the stage is back at the Kaifeng City, at the middle of the civilization, where all these characters will come through, and clearly something's gonna happen here. So I can't wait.
Well, we've set. It's taken us 5 chapters, but we're looping back now.
Yeah, and I wonder if there's gonna be other Man of Valor or Woman of Valor that shows up in the next chapter.
Well, Cherry,
we followed Lu Zhishen for quite a while now.
If they have valor, then they're a man, Cherry. I mean, honorary.
Okay, sure. Yeah, like that. What you say, like you call a very accomplished woman scholar, sir, in Chinese.
Is really?
Yeah, and they're like, it's a show of respect. It's like, no, I'm sorry, I just shouted into the microphone. But yeah.
Well, anyway, thank you for listening. We got a lot more episodes to go. I think we'll probably do one more book club episode before the next mainline podcast episode, which I think is going to be about the Yellow River. So please look forward to that. And thank you for listening and have a nice day.
We'll see you next time.